Hello, and welcome to the
Arcarius podcast.
I'm your host, Nevin.
And I am your co-host, Tristan.
And my co-host over here, Tristan, will be introducing you to the game of Warhammer 40k. Now, Tristan, since this is our first episode, I think we should introduce ourselves. So how about you go first?
Hi there. I am Tristan. We are going to be talking about one of the greatest games on earth, Warhammer 40k. I got into Warhammer several years ago, about 2-3 years ago, from our lovely host here. I met him through school, and I just somehow ended up saying that I liked Warhammer, and I have watched this man's eyes glow just amazingly when I said that. And ever since then, I've been buying and building models and painting them. Only recently, though. But up until then, yeah. But I love this game. It's amazing.
Yes. It was a wonder that we met. Anyways,
for sure.
My name is Nevin. I'm your host. I will be here all the time, showing you guys and telling you guys about the game of Warhammer 40k. I got into it around, it's close to a decade now, or it's around the time I got into it. When I was around 8, got into this game, built them, tried painting them. I wasn't very good back then, but now I've gotten better. But ever since then, I've built the game, I've built the models, I've played the game, and it's been just a lovely time. So, Tristan, should we get into the actual what Warhammer is?
I think we should, yeah.
Perfect. How about you introduce us a little bit?
Okay, sounds good. So, Warhammer 40k was created by a company called Games Workshop back in the UK. They have been running for several years, I believe, since 1980. And they started making they started originally with metal models, then they made plastic models. And now they just make them on sprues and sell them for a bunch of money, which everyone buys because we love it anyways.
Yes. From there, we buy these metal sprues, we cut them out, and then we glue them together, and then we paint them. From there, we put them on bases, and we push them towards each other while rolling dice to play the game.
But, I mean, if you can just visualize, like, the actual battle, it's pretty cool.
It is amazing. The game is so much fun. The community is even better. And Warhammer's become so iconic that you could probably go up to almost any gamer in the world and show them a Space Marine, and they'll be like, oh, that's the thing from Warhammer.
Or they'll at least know just, like, some aspects of Warhammer. It is pretty well known around the globe. I wouldn't say it's, like, known by name, but it's mostly known.
Right. Now, I think we should get into the lore behind Warhammer, the story of it, because this game is great because it has the actual building and the painting elements, and then the actual battling elements.
Yeah, so there's hobbying, and then there's the lore, and then they're actually using the models that you made to go do battles against friends, family, whoever else has an army that's willing to go against you. Right.
So yeah, as you said, there's the lore, the battle, and then the hobbying. Let's talk about the lore. So the lore, basically, this big guy called Big E, or the Emperor, created 20 sons. All of them demigodish. He then wiped 2 off the face of the earth for reasons not told to us. And he was left with 18. He conquered most of the galaxy, and then 9 of those 18 turned on him and fought the other 9 brothers. Some disappeared, 1 or 2 died, and eventually, after a while, Big E came out and decided to get something done, and he killed the strongest out of his betrayer sons.
Time to put in the work, sorry.
After he killed them, he was gravely wounded and had to sit on this thing called the Golden Throne, which basically required a psyker to sit on it so that demons would not appear on this universe's version of Earth, which is called Terra. Since he sat on it, he became basically unable to do anything else and atrophied into a skeleton. That was 1,000 years before the current time of Warhammer. That was in the year 30,000. we are now in the year 40,000. Most of the loyal sons have disappeared, and most of the evil sons, the betrayers, have come back as demons because they've given themselves to the chaos gods.
Yeah, that means they corrupted their souls.
Right. Humanity, who is at this point around a million worlds strong, is fighting to survive in this universe against both the evil denizens of the Chaos Realm, which are the Traitor Primar or the Traitor Sons and the Traitor Space Marines, and also against Xenos, which are the aliens of the universe, like the elves, the dwarves,
Tyranids,
the Nids, which are the bug-likes. And they're also trying to survive threats from within. They're the absolute, just stupid religion that is formed around the Emperor, where if you say anything bad about the Emperor, it's called heresy, and they will kill you on the spot. And the bureaucracy that just absolutely stops anything from getting done in the Imperium.
Yes, I was going to say about like heresy, Krieg Death Corps.
The Krieg, they're loyal. They will die. They will put down their lives for the Emperor.
Just elite human soldiers. No,
they're not elite. They're not elite.
Sorry, just human soldiers. Just a bunch of them.
Human soldiers and gas masks. But the humans do have one thing on their side, and that is the Space Marines. These genetically augmented superhumans that carry weapons that shoot basically propelled Red Bull cans, have a small Kia car wrapped around them armor-wise, and are just absolute menaces.
Oh, yes.
Some of them are chaos worshippers and have betrayed the Emperor, but most have stayed with the Emperor and are helping humanity to survive.
I think if you took, maybe not a Kia Soul, but like just a car, like let's say a Hummer H1, and you made it human-sized, and then just put a 9-foot being inside and just said, oh, here's a giant chainsaw sword and a gun that shoots like something bigger than a crayon. We're talking the bullet is the size of a Red Bull, but it's like just insane amount of like size and density these guys have.
As the Russian Badger put it, it's like Hulk Hogan ate Boogie 298 and wrapped himself in a Kia car.
Kia Soul,
correct. But yes, that is the lore of Warhammer. Humanity is fighting to survive, but you don't only have to play as humanity. When it comes to gameplay, you can play as any of the factions, including Chaos, Xenos, and if you want to, humanity. You can play as all of them. Of course, humanity is the favorite, but...
Well, I mean, Space Marines are usually the favorite.
They're part of humanity.
They are GW's baby, so it is a pretty fair thing to want to play them. But GW does make so many cool models for Tyranids, for Drukhari, for the most part.
Drukhari are the evil dark elves.
But... And knights. I love knights, but
knights are like this model right here, where they're giants, humans that pilot basically giant, weird-looking Gundams.
They're just giant mechs, and that's basically also the Tau.
Yes.
Tau.
Okay, so we're straying away from lore, and I think because of that, we should move into hobbying and the game as a model game.
Oh yes.
So you want to explain this?
Yeah. When you're buying GW kits and also Forge World kits, Forge World, we're not going to get into that, but GW plastic kits, they come on things called sprues, and these are just plastic sheets, and you have to cut them out with tweezers or whatever you can to cut them out. And then you want to use Pacific modeling glue and glue these things together. Some of them are sprue and just pinhole and connect it, but especially because they're coming in parts, they're not just one model. You're able to customize them, make them your own. And when also with modeling, right, you can make them into different figures. You can kit bash. You can also, when you're painting, you make them your own. You decide what faction, or you can decide how they look, because it's all customized to your own abilities.
So with the painting, as Tristan said, you make them your own. You paint them however you want. You can paint the blue, pink, purple, neon green. You can paint them whatever you
There
want.
is a rainbow faction of Space Marines that does exist.
I haven't seen that one, but you can paint them whenever you want and make them your faction, your group, your faction. You can paint them however you want. When you build them, you can build them just the normal way, the way GW tells you, or Tristan said you can kit bash by using other kits. So say you want your Space Marines to have a little bit more spikes. You take some spikes from another kit and just put them on.
Or you can do stuff like different guns. But when it comes to the gameplay aspect of it, you could only use what they have
As
in
data
terms
sheet.
of loadout.
But
But you can make them look as cool as you want. That is to your own ability. That's
Yes.
the best part about modeling.
It's the best part. You get to make your faction your faction. Now, let's move on to gameplay.
Yes, the lovely part of this. So
The gameplay is basically generally two people go against each other. They bring their army of models over against the other person's army of models. And you'll go through 5 rounds. Each round has a turn for the person, and each turn has 5 different steps. Within a person's turn, you will go through the command phase, the movement phase, where you move your models up the board depending on the movement stat, which is in inches. So if it has movement stat of 6, it'll be movement. You can move it 6 inches forward. Then you will go into the shooting phase, where you, self-explanatory, shoot the enemy like pow 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 pow. And after that, you do the charge phase, where your melee models will run at the enemy and get into melee. And then finally the fight phase, where your axes and chainswords come down on the enemy and just go
kapow. Oh. Sorry, I was late to that.
It's okay, Tristan. It's okay. You missed your mark. But next time. But they get into the fight phase and they start whacking each other. After that, it goes to the next person's turn, where they do the same thing. They go through the phases. And then after each person is gone, that'll be the end of the first round. And then you'll go on to 5 different rounds and see who wins. Now, you can win one of 2 ways. You can win, depending on how you're playing, either by taking the other person's models and just absolutely taking them all off the table, making them forfeit, or just absolutely destroying the other person's armies, or you can win by points.
If you can kill the other person's army, what can they capture points with, right? If they're all dead, they can't do anything. So, I mean, that is a way to win. But if you are able just to be strategic enough and actually control all the points, then you do have a fighting chance, even if the other army may be superior or outrank you or have more guns.
Right. So the next way to win is, as I mentioned, points. And to do that, the tournament play basically has a bunch of these little markers on the table, and you will, with your forces, try and capture those markers. Capturing those markers will give you points. It's like holding a point in Call of Duty or one of those other first-person shooters. You hold the point, you gain points for holding. And by the end of the game, whoever has more points wins. That's usually how it's played, but you can also play a deathmatch where you just kill everything on the board and hope for the best.
Or there is, this is more of a
PvE mode, and it is absolutely amazing.
It's more of a kind of a player-created thing. It's not anything official by GW. But like we said, these are your own models. You can do whatever you want with them. So there are different game modes that are not official, but they can be very fun and beneficial.
The game mode he is alluding to that is PvE is called Horde mode. And it is an absolutely amazing creation by a podcast called the Warhammer Podcast. I will link them down in the description. You should definitely check them out. They are one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to when it comes to Warhammer. And they created this thing called Horde mode, where you and some friends get to go up against a simple AI and just, you get to play as a team. And it's amazing. I recommend it.
It's one of the only times where you can actually do working together with someone in 40k. I mean, there are, you can set up 2v2 matches, but it's still against another person. This is the only time you can really go play with your friends purely just for the fun of it.
Right. Okay, so we've explained gameplay. I think we should end this with talking about ourselves and what this podcast is going to be about. I guess I'm going to go then.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this podcast will be me, the host, and whoever decides to whoever I can get to co-host that day, talking about a specific part of Warhammer. Most of the time, it'll be Warhammer 40k, and usually it'll be gameplay oriented. Sometimes it'll have blurbs of lore, or it will be that one-off episode where we talk about hobbying, because I put a lot of effort into my hobbying.
I try to as well, but as I said, I only started painting recently, and I have a big army, so yikes.
Yes, so our podcast will mostly be 40k with gameplay. Now, on the rare occasions where it's going to be another co-host, because both my co-hosts weren't able to get on that week, we'll be talking about Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy version of Warhammer. Or we'll be talking
year 30,000,
what?
I believe.
No, Age of Sigmar is
Age
nothing.
of Sigmar is something
Age of Sigmar is a completely different thing. We could do Horus Heresy, which is the 30k, but I have no experience with it. So we would do Age of Sigmar, or one of the smaller games, which is War Cry or Kill Team, which is just you have 10 models versus 30 or 40. Or we could do Blood Bowl, which is me and my buddy Travis. We love playing. It's a mix of football, rugby, and Warhammer all in one, and it's a lot of fun.
There's a lot of a lot of different things when it comes to Warhammer, just in general. I mean, like gameplay wise. So these games are fun in their own respect, even outside of the original 40k. But they're fun things to play.
So from there, we'll mostly be talking about 40k, and yeah, we're just here to have fun and talk about the hobby that we're very passionate about.
Oh yeah,
perfect. I think that describes basically what we're going for here, Tristan. So,
oh yeah, I think it's a good start.
Perfect. Do you have any final remarks?
I hope to see you in the next episode of the Arcarius podcast.
Yes, I love the breathe in for that.
What, for the Arcarius podcast? I don't know how I could do that.
You had to prepare yourself. Yeah. Anyways, thank you for joining us on the Arcarius podcast. We hope to see you on the next episode. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.